James and Emily had just moved into their dream home, a quaint two-story house on Maplewood Lane. The neighborhood was peaceful, filled with blooming gardens and friendly faces. As they unpacked boxes in their cozy living room, Emily noticed the curtains twitching next door. "Did you see that?" Emily whispered to James, who was busy setting up the television. "See what?" James replied, not looking up. "I think someone's watching us from next door," Emily said, her voice laced with curiosity. James shrugged. "Probably just curious neighbors. We'll introduce ourselves later." But the feeling lingered. Something about the house next door didn't sit right with Emily. The next morning, while James was at work, Emily decided to explore the neighborhood. She walked past the house next door and couldn't help but feel the hair on her neck stand up. The yard was overgrown, the windows were grimy, and an eerie silence surrounded the property. As Emily passed by, she heard a faint creaking sound, like a door slowly opening. She turned, but there was nothing there, just the unsettling silence. Later that evening, as the couple was preparing dinner, the doorbell rang. They exchanged puzzled glances. No one had mentioned visitors. James opened the door to find an elderly man standing on the porch, his expression blank, his eyes a little too intense. "Welcome to the neighborhood," the man said in a monotone voice. "I'm Mr. Grayson. I live next door." "Thank you," James replied, trying to keep the conversation light. "Would you like to come in for a cup of tea?" "No," Mr. Grayson said abruptly, "but remember, some things are better left alone." With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of his overgrown yard. Emily felt a chill run down her spine. What did he mean by that? Days passed, and the strange encounters with Mr. Grayson became more frequent. He would appear out of nowhere, watching them from his porch or standing by their mailbox, never saying a word. The couple tried to ignore it, but the tension was growing. One evening, after a particularly unsettling encounter where Mr. Grayson had simply stood outside their window for hours, Emily decided to do some digging. She searched the town records, trying to find out more about their mysterious neighbor. What she discovered made her blood run cold. Mr. Grayson had been living in that house for over 50 years. But there were rumors that his wife had disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and that he was somehow involved. The neighbors had tried to get close to him to find out the truth, but anyone who did ended up moving away suddenly, without a word. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. She had to tell James. That night, as a storm raged outside, Emily told James everything she had discovered. They decided to confront Mr. Grayson to get answers once and for all. Armed with flashlights and determination, they braved the storm and knocked on Mr. Grayson's door. To their surprise, the door creaked open on its own. Inside, the house was dark and musty, filled with old, dusty furniture and eerie portraits. The couple called out, but there was no answer. As they ventured deeper into the house, they found a room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar, and a faint light flickered inside. With trembling hands, James pushed the door open, revealing a small room filled with old photographs. In the center of the room sat Mr. Grayson, holding a faded picture of a woman, his wife. "They took her from me," Mr. Grayson whispered, his voice broken. "But she's still here. She's always here." Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the couple felt a cold presence in the room. The air grew thick, and a shadowy figure appeared behind Mr. Grayson, her eyes filled with sorrow. Before they could react, the figure vanished, and Mr. Grayson slumped over, lifeless. The couple fled the house, their hearts pounding. They never spoke of that night again, and the next day, a for sale sign appeared on their lawn. Maplewood Lane was quiet once more, but the eerie presence of Mr. Grayson and his lost wife lingered in the shadows, waiting for the next curious soul to uncover their tragic story.